Hi, Glenda and Brad. I can tell you now, a lot of us were wondering what Bob would do when this verdict was read, because he had been telling the judge all day long that he didn't feel 100%. Now, remember, this is his first day back after 2 days in the hospital. Nobody knows what made him ill, what kind of medical condition that he has had. The courts have been pretty tight-lipped, but Bashara found guilty on all 5 counts. And when that verdict was read, he was crying, at times putting his face in his hands and shaking his head no. Let's listen in.
In the case of the people of the state of Michigan versus Robert Bashara, will you please read your verdict form as marked as to count 1, conspiracy to commit homicide, murder first degree premeditated.
Guilty of conspiracy to commit homicide, murder first degree premeditated.
Okay, to count 2, solicitation of a homicide, murder.
Guilty of solicitation of a homicide, murder.
As to count 3, homicide, murder first degree premeditated.
Guilty of homicide, murder first degree premeditated.
As to count 4, obstruction of justice.
Guilty of obstruction of justice.
So again, the jury finding him guilty on all 5 counts, including the most important for the prosecution, that first-degree murder charge for the death of Bob's wife, Jane. Now, Bashara guilty again of killing his wife. His handyman, Joe Gentz, has said all along that Bashara paid him to kill Jane and then threatened him if he didn't do it. This has been 9 weeks of testimony, over 70 witnesses, over 200 exhibits, a lot that this jury had to go through, and they got it done in 3 days, despite Bob's absences for about 2.5 for medical reasons that, again, we still don't know what was wrong with him. The court's being pretty tight-lipped about that. Bob will be back here in court January 15th. That's when he will be sentenced. Now, coming up at 5 o'clock, what his attorneys had to say after the courtroom. Reporting live from downtown for the Now Detroit, Julie Bonovich, 7 Action News.
And Julie, just watching Bob Bashara in the courtroom as those verdicts are being handed down, he kind of had pursed lips at times. He was shaking his head almost like, oh, this isn't right, like he wasn't done right. He looks like he doesn't believe that this should be happening to him. Is that the feeling?
And that's exactly one of the questions we asked his attorneys, how they felt that he looked. And one of the comments was the attorney said that, well, anybody would be in shock when they hear a verdict that they're not quite sure that they wanted to hear, which, of course, Bob didn't want to hear in this case. At one point after the verdict was read, the judge had actually dismissed the jury, but then pulled them back in just to tell them how good of a job both sides had done. And at that point, she told Bob that he could sit down because he was having difficulty standing. So you can tell, of course, that he was definitely feeling like he was done wrong in this.
Julie, with every word Judge Evans spoke, you felt the heaviness of all of it. So many eyes on this case for so long. We'll check back in with you later on. Thanks so much.